Hey, I'm Julie. And if you've ever frozen in a meeting you were completely prepared for, snapped at someone you actually respect, or spent 3 hours preparing for something that should have taken you 20 minutes, then this episode is for you. These aren't character flaws. They're not signs you're failing at leadership. They're survival patterns. Your nervous system learned to keep you safe. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Intelligence and effort alone won't shift them. And by the end of this episode, you'll understand exactly what's happening in your body when you freeze, snap, or overprepare. And you'll have a simple tool to interrupt that pattern before it runs you. So let's first of all identify 3 frustrations. You're laying awake, it's 2 a.m. in the morning, and all you can do is replay the conversations from 3 days ago even, analysing every word, every thought, everything's just whirling around in your head, right? Even though the likelihood is that conversation actually went fine. Or you're over preparing for that meeting again that didn't really require it. Maybe you spent an extra 3 hours preparing and it's only 20 minutes, but you can't help yourself. You know it's a little bit excessive, but nonetheless you do it all the same. Or you're snapping at your team or a family member or friend, could be anyone, right? Then feeling awful about it afterwards because in that moment you couldn't help it. You just reacted. And you tell yourself you should be able to handle this. You're intelligent, capable, you're even very successful. But maybe that being visible part is a bit that holds you back. These are things that happen all the time, right? Any situation when basically you're getting triggered. But as we will talk about, that trigger is in your identity. So why can't you just stop? Well, this is a thing, isn't it, right? Because as I said, these are patterns in your subconscious programming, that automatic behaviors, because they've been there for so long, they just become part of you. The same way breathing, in the same way learning to drive, learning to tie your shoelaces. It's an automatic response now. But the likelihood is you learned that a very long time ago and it's been running ever since. But you're just not aware of it because it's in your subconscious programming. So these behaviors, as I said, aren't personality traits. They're actually protective patterns. Because I want you to understand that your mind's only job is to keep you safe, right? That might seem a bit mad, a bit crazy, a bit woo, a bit way, but it's true. And it will do what it can to do that. Now, your nervous system learned these things from somewhere. It learned a long time ago in your childhood. It learned to run this program that something happened in your life and it would have created like a physical reaction in your body. It might be like pounding heart, terrible feeling in your stomach. It could be a twitch. It could be blushing. It could be anything, right? An event happened in your life. But when something happens, we create a meaning around that event. And that meaning might be happy, it might be sad. But if it's sad or negative or something like that, that negativity or that feeling is going to be stored in your filing cabinet, in your subconscious programming, right? That's what we want to find. That's what we want to unravel, really. So the problem is something that most people don't talk about. Now, in leadership meetings and conversations, no one's talking about your nervous system, are they? Right? They talk about things like time management, executive presence and strategies, how you should think about things, how you should deliver things. But it's nothing to do with what's going on inside. And that's what happens when we do sometimes surface level coaching. They can tell you that you need to be more positive, you need to be more confident, and that's great, you do. But what they don't tell you is it's the internal programming that you need to change if you really, really want to make progress, right? So if you're, say, in a board meeting and you freeze, despite the fact that you know your stuff, right? But in that room, there might be a gap in your identity. It's not a skills gap. It's an identity lag. And it's where you're here and you deserve to be in that room and you know your stuff and you're delivering on that stuff. But your identity may be this little version of you that was 6, that something happened at school and it created that terrible feeling in your stomach and it taught you that being visible wasn't a great idea because that doesn't keep you safe, right? When you're in that boardroom, this little version of you is the one that's kind of taking over because that physical reaction will react before a thought even happens. So when you're sitting there or standing there, whatever it is you're doing that presentation, that little version when you were 6 is going, no. We need this is not keeping you safe. We need to stop you in your tracks. So we're going to freeze you. So you're in that freeze state. All right. And I'm going to walk through exactly what's happening when you're in those moments. All right. So let's do the science part. So when your body perceives a threat, your thinking brain partially goes offline. Now, your thinking brain is your prefrontal cortex, right? And that does all the planning, the reasoning, the stepping back, whatever it is it needs to do. It's all happening on there, right? So intelligent people suddenly can't access the words, right? So you know you're intelligent, you know your stuff, and you're in that freeze mode. And for some reason, you just can't think of anything. You can't remember a thing. Well, that's because your brain is like overwhelmed, right? It's not because you're weak, that your body's actually gone into survival mode. So it's remembered a time when it needed to keep you safe, and it's gone right back into that. And here's what that looks like in a professional context, right? I'm going to give you some different examples here. So let's start with freezing, because we were just talking about that. So as I say, you know your material really, really well. And you're really normally good at standing up and presenting to people. But in this instance, your mind has gone blank. It's just shut down because your nervous system decided it wasn't safe to do anything right now. And like I said, childhood experience, right? What happened when you was maybe at school and it made you think that visibility wasn't a good thing. Then we've got snapping. So when we genuinely feel like really stressed, our brain really struggles, right? Because there's so much information. It's basically overload, right? And it's going, there's no room left in my brain to actually deal with this. I can't do it. I need to stop. So out of frustration, someone might ask you questions and you just get really annoyed and you snap, right? Because it makes you feel in the moment maybe that you're stupid. Maybe it's triggering a memory from when you were younger that something happened and you got told, don't be stupid. You're stupid standing there. And again, that identity gap we're talking about, you're going back to being that small child again who got told they were stupid. And that's where that trigger's coming from. Now, if you're that person that's always over preparing, you spent way too long presenting, coming up with a presentation that actually didn't warrant that time really, but you keep going over and over and over again because there's a part of you maybe that doesn't feel you're good enough. And whatever you do, you're trying to people please. You're just trying to keep over giving. But it's what's going inside, what's going on in your identity. How old is that little version of you, again, that felt that they weren't good enough or they were criticized? All right. So the over preparing, the people pleaser, that's all the same thing. It's all part of that identity issue, as is replaying conversations over and over again. Right. Because when something happens and you overthink it, your brain is just scanning and rescanning that conversation and it's looking for a threat. And if your body feels that there's a threat, then it will react. All right. And your brain is trying to work it out. It's trying to work out where the danger is, even though that moment's passed. Struggling to delegate. This is another great one, right? You maybe need to feel in control, but at the heart of control is fear. Most things lead to fear. All right. So what are you fearful of if you're not in control? So if you need to control every detail, your system just doesn't feel safe. So what's going on in here? All right. Maybe you don't trust yourself. There's a part of your body that just doesn't trust what you're going to do and what you're going to say. And that's where the struggling to delegate comes in, isn't it? Because if you delegate, what if they do a better job than you? What if it makes you look silly? Or what if it belittles you? Maybe they look better and, you see that as a threat. So there comes that danger again, doesn't it? So you feel like you've got to be in control, that fear. They're all connected. The same with checking emails late at night. Your nervous system is seeking certainty. So if you can just know what's coming, maybe you can relax. But there's always going to be something else, isn't there? There's going to be the next email, the next conversation. And you might even find something in an email that actually sends you in another rabbit hole of thought that stops you from going to sleep. But again, it's what's going on inside. What is it that you're trying to prove? Who are you trying to prove it to? Where's that child in that identity timeline? How old was you? What was going on in your life at that time that created this belief or this feeling, emotion? Same with constant busyness. Right? These are all connected, right? You still feel unbearably, that you need to control everything. You have to be constantly doing something because as soon as you stop, maybe you drop the ball. Then what would that look like? Again, that's that control running through. It's that fear running through. It's that people pleaser running through. It's all connected. All right. In the same way as needing urgency to feel productive, right? You don't need to have everything done immediately. Your system has learned that pressure is the only thing that makes you move, but that's not true. In fact, the calmer you are, the more you can calm your mind and body, the more productive you can be, because you can tap into your mind then. You can tap into that subconscious where all the answers, all the stories are all there. So the calmer you are, the more ability you have to actually tap in and find what is that information that you're looking for. Feelings of emotionally being flat at home, because again, it's all connected. You've used everything that all your energy, you're exhausted by the time you get home. There's absolutely nothing left. And that's not fair, is it? That's not fair maybe for your partner, for your children, friends, family, or whatever, when you get home, because you've just burnt everything at work or in work, wherever you are, whether you're actually there or at home working, but you're just so exhausted. But again, where is that in your timeline? Where's that child that always felt that it wasn't allowed to stop? It didn't feel safe. Why didn't you feel safe? Maybe there is general, real trauma in your life, and this is what's causing these behaviors in your adult life. But you don't have to have had anything terrible happen to you either. We've all got our own traumas, right? Trauma can be anything. Trauma can just be that embarrassment of standing in front of the class and everyone's laughing at you. That's a trauma. Obviously, there's bigger traumas, but it doesn't have to be anything major. But it was to that small child. That's the difference, right? Remember, between around 0 to 7, you don't have any logic. So if something happened when you were 6, you didn't have a logical brain to go, well, why am I thinking that? Well, that's stupid, isn't it? Because why would that? Of course they love me, and all this stuff, but you don't have logic. So how would you know? And you take on that belief and whatever feeling and emotions that's attached to it. And that forms part of your identity. So it's important to understand that all these examples that we've just been through, these are not time management problems. They're signs your body believes that pressure equals danger. And that's important. Now, I want to explain to you a little bit about how your brain can actually make you ill. Yes. Right. As I said earlier, right, your brain's only job is to keep you safe. That's it. And it takes your words literally. Now, I love using this example. Oh my God, I've got this presentation coming up next week. Oh my God, it's going to be terrible. I'm just going to go make a complete fool of myself. I'm going to show myself up. Oh my God, it's just going to be terrible. Do you know what? I'm just going to die if I stand up in front of these people. So your brain hears this and it goes, oh, hang on. My job is to keep Julie safe. I can't let her stand there and make a fool of herself. So I need to do something about this, right? Because that's a threat. It's a threat to my existence, right? If my brain ignores it. So in my subconscious, it's going away to think about, oh, what can I do to do that? To stop Julie from dying, standing up in front of those people. So that morning of that presentation, I wake up and maybe I've got like the most horrific headache ever. Maybe I've been sick. Maybe my stomach is churning. Maybe I can't get off the toilet. Whatever it is, it's stopping me from doing that presentation. So the mind saved you, right? Because now you can't go. So it's completely done its job. It stopped you in your tracks. It's given you whatever illness, whatever physical reaction, whatever it is to stop you from doing what you're going to do. But you should understand the principles, really, that your brain's only job is to keep you safe, right? That's the principle. So what gets praised a lot in the corporate environment is often highly functional survival mode, right? So the person that's always prepared, the one who never drops the ball, the one who's available at all hours, the one who anticipates every problem before it happens, that looks like commitment, right? That looks like drive. That certainly looks like leadership potential. But underneath, it's often hypervigilance, over responsibility, a nervous system that learned early that safety comes from being indispensable. So again, that's the programming. Where did that younger version of you learn that belief? That you have to be, I don't know, the perfect one, the achiever, the people pleaser, right? There's so many of us out there people pleasing. And this is probably where corporate environments get this wrong, really, because they breed that type of person. Now, they like that because at the end of the day, they want that person who's doing all those things, who's delivering. But actually, that's when burnout happens. So that person's going to get burnt out at some point. That person's going to get sick at some point, and then you lose that productivity. So maybe if I'm not, not saying all corporates are, so I've worked in quite a few, and let's be honest, they're not overly that bothered about you really. It's about what you can give to them, right? So it's down to us to actually manage ourselves. It's down to us to understand what's going on so we can manage who we are and be the best version for ourselves first and foremost. And then that will naturally come out of the wash, if you like, anyway. All right. Now, if you've ever been on these corporate training days or weeks or whatever, or you've been to see a coach before, you've probably just been taught about the surface level changes, right? How to manage leadership, how to manage a team, how to talk to people, how to answer a phone, whatever it is. It's all good stuff, but it's not necessarily get into the root. I mean, they might say to you, this is how you can be confident. And yeah, you can learn different tools and techniques to come across as confident. But if you're inside your subconscious programming, is that people pleaser, is that person that doesn't love who they are, if it's that person who just feels they're not good enough or they're not worthy, that's still going to drag right back into their subconscious programming. And let's face it, that's quite exhausting, isn't it? Right. And that's a sort of exhaustion that you can't shift just by going on holiday. It's there all the time. All right. So if you've got that inability to actually switch off, even in a situation where there isn't anything that urgent, then you need to start listening to this really, because that means that your body is in constant fight flight mode as well. All right. And there's some programming going on that's just not allowing you to have a calm mind and body. All right. I'm going to show you a simple tool that you can use in a moment before the pattern runs. All right. And this tool I like to call the threat check. All right. Now, in this tool, there's 3 questions that you ask yourself. When you notice one of these responses kicking in, whether that's the freezing, the snapping, or the over preparing, or the replaying that conversation, any of them really. So step 1 will be to name it. So for example, what's my body doing right now? Not what you're thinking so much. It's about what's that physical feeling. Maybe it's a tightness in the chest, or maybe your breathing's a bit shallow, or maybe your jaw's a bit clenched, right? Your racing heart. So you're just naming what your body's doing. And then number 2 is to check it. Is there an actual threat here, or is my body responding to an old pattern? 9 times out of 10, there's no real danger. Your nervous system is just running a program it learned a long time ago. And number 3, choose it. What do I actually want to do here? Not what your body is pushing you towards, but what would you choose if you weren't in survival mode? All right. So name it, check it, choose it. So let's have a look how that looks like in practice. So let's look at scenario number 1, the presentation freeze. So you're about to present the board and you know your material, right? But all of a sudden, your mind has gone blank. You can't even remember the name of the people in the room, and you just can feel yourself like maybe your breathing's getting heavier and you've got that tightness in your chest, right? So the first thing you're going to do is name it. I can feel my chest tighten. My breath is really shallow now, and I can feel myself starting to freeze. So then I want you to do is check it. Is there an actual threat right now? Well, let's have a look at this. Well, not really, because these are my colleagues. I do know my material. My body is responding to an old pattern that maybe thinks that I shouldn't be visible because that means danger. So then you're going to choose it. What do I actually want to do? Well, I want to walk in there and share what I know. I'm going to take a slow, deep breath in and out, stand up tall, chest back, and I'm going to smash this. All right. And it's important that when you're going into situations that you can do a few deep breathing exercises, and that immediately sends a message to your mind and body that you're calm and you're safe. Okay. Scenario number 2, the 2 a.m. replay. You're lying awake, replaying that conversation from earlier in the week. You're analysing every word, wondering if you said the wrong thing. So what I want you to do is name it. I'm scanning for a threat. My mind won't stop running through what's happened. Check it. Well, is there an actual threat there? The conversation is over. It probably went okay, actually. It wasn't that bad. But my brain is just doing its old job. It's trying to keep me safe by anticipating danger. So then you're going to choose it. What do I actually want to do? Well, I want to sleep. I'm going to let this go. If there's something to address, I can do it tomorrow. Because the problem with this one, if you keep checking your emails, you're going to find something else to worry about, right? So you've got to nip it in the bud. And here comes scenario 3, the over preparation spiral. You spent 2 hours preparing for a 30-minute meeting. You're about to spend another hour just to be safe. What are you going to do? You're going to name it. Look, I'm over preparing. I'm trying to control every possible outcome. Check it. Is there an actual threat here? No, I already know enough. My body is trying to create safety through certainty, but I don't need to anticipate every question to be okay. And then number 3, you choose it. What do I actually want to do? I want to stop. I'm prepared enough. I'm going to close this and do something else. All right? Because you don't have to know all the answers anyway, do you? You can just say, I'll come back to you. So when you start catching these patterns in the moment, something shifts. You stop judging. You start responding with a little bit more control, because now you understand what's driving them. So you start responding instead of reacting. There's a gap between the trigger and what to do next. And in that gap, you get to choose. So it's just breaking that cycle a little bit, isn't it? Just to give you time, that just a moment, just to reconnect with yourself, really. And you can, as I say, you can do some deep breathing. You can also do the physiological sigh. Basically, you go, and that will just calm your mind and calm your body really, really quickly. And if you can start doing that, what you're going to stop doing really is that white knuckling your way through leadership. Now, the performance comes a little bit less exhausting because you're not trying so hard. You're not trying to fight your nervous system like you was before. And this is the work I do with my clients through my identity box rewire method. It's going deep to the root of where it's all happening and seeing what we can do. When did it first start? And it will come up with a scene of when you was a younger version of yourself. And we'll find out, how was you thinking? How did you feel? What beliefs did you create? And also, fundamentally, where is that physical feeling stored in your body? And then we'll deal with that too. So we're identifying and reprogramming and rewiring you so that you don't get caught in that same place again. And I've talked about this before, but my analogy of the hose pipe, right? If you imagine that we are an energy, everything flows as energy, but when something gets stuck like a kink in a hose pipe, the energy stops flowing. So when we can release that kink, everything flows again. So when something's happening in your life now, you're not going back to that kink, it's flowing through now. So you don't have that same stuckness, if you like. You don't have that same physical reaction happening because it's not there anymore. All right. We're not taking away memories. We're not, brainwashing your brain or anything. We're just reprogramming it so that it's not stuck on that old belief or that feeling or whatever it is that was causing this issue. All right. But for now, what you need to do is just use this process really and just stop yourself in your tracks and find that threat and then see if you can process it. Right. It's just about pattern interruption really is what we're trying to do here. So you name it, check it and choose it. Right. And that's the one thing I want you to do this week is just notice when you're freezing or snapping or over preparing or replaying something and you're in that loop, right? That threat check is what you need to be running, right? Name it, choose it. Name it, check it, choose it. And once you start becoming aware, you can make changes, right? So just do that once this week. Maybe write it down, maybe close your eyes, try and think back to that childhood experience. Or it's not always childhood, by the way. It could be, different times in your life. But quite often, more often than not, it does go right back to childhood. All right. So remember, you can always change state by breathing and just generally calming yourself down. So as always, if you've ever recognized any of these things in my show, then I invite all of you who are interested in making permanent change to book one of my free 45-minute upgrade game plan calls. And what we do in that session is we just take a look of what's going on in your life right now and look at the triggers. You're not going to do any deep work. This is just to get an idea and we can come up with a game plan for you. And that might be coming to work with me. It might be on a one-to-one basis. It might be joining my group program, or it might just be giving you some tools and techniques that help you along the way. All right. So if that's something of interest to you, I'm going to drop that in the chat right now. Okay. And then you can just get yourself on the wait list. And what happens is, as soon as I get a space, I'll reach out to you and we can book a time that's convenient for both of us. And we do it that way. But if you're not ready for that, or really, I'm just going to drop this in the link as well. This is my free evening upgrade audio. Now, I created this for you so that when you go to bed, or just before you go to bed even, but laying in bed is a brilliant time to do it, it's a beautiful recording. It's only about 10 minutes long, and it helps you calm and close down your mind, close those tabs that are open, and go off into a beautiful night's sleep. So this is brilliant if you're not a very good sleeper and you're struggling to calm your mind before you go to sleep. So it's absolutely free. There's the link. Just click on it. So let's just have a quick reflection. All right. This week, your thing to do is threat check. You're going to name it. What's my body doing right now? You're going to check it. Is there an actual threat, or is it an old pattern? And number 3, you're going to choose it. What do I actually want to do here? And remember, these aren't character flaws. These are protective patterns. And when your body perceives a threat, your thinking brain goes offline. And that's when you stop thinking and you can't remember anything, and everything just goes blank. Okay. And what gets praised in corporate environments is often highly functional survival mode. But that's not what we want to be. We want to be calm. We want our body to be calm. And when we do that, we're way more productive because we can think properly. We can take time to digest, tap into our intuition and work out what needs to be done rather than being in that fight flight mode. All right. So thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.